The president updated his list, and we'd sort of been teased about this for a couple weeks, I do believe, Zach. The president said every one of these individuals will ensure equal justice, equal treatment, and equal rights for citizens of every race, color, religion, and creed. Important words. What was your take on the updated list and your biggest takeaways from it?
Well, it's a fantastic accomplishment that President Trump has over the past 4 years in appointing over 200 constitutionally committed judges to lifetime appointments on the federal bench. And so it's really been encouraging to see that. And really, President Trump has set himself up for success in appointing future Supreme Court justices by really building such a deep bench in the federal judiciary. And we saw that with the list that he released today. You know, back in 2016, my colleague at the Heritage Foundation, John Malcolm, released a list with recommendations. Last month, myself and John released an updated list with recommendations for potential nominees for President Trump. And I'm very pleased to say that several of the names that we specifically mentioned were also on President Trump's list. And so at this point, it's really a good problem to have. There are so many constitutionally committed, textually committed judges and lawyers out there that could serve as fantastic future Supreme Court justices that with many, many names on the list and on the previous list, President Trump is in great shape to appoint future judges and a future Supreme Court justice.
So I think one of the headline grabbing features of this updated list was the fact that the president included Senators Ted Cruz, Tom Cotton, and Josh Hawley. What's your take on that, Zach?
Well, look, it's not unprecedented for sitting U.S. senators to be named to the Supreme Court. It just hasn't happened in quite some time. Now, I do know that Senator Hawley has already released a statement saying, you know, he's flattered, he's honored to be considered for the Supreme Court, but that he wants to serve the people of Missouri in the Senate. And that's perfectly fine and appropriate. But look, any of the names on this list are going to be constitutionally committed individuals. And so 5 of the names that were added to the list, Paul Clement, Noel Francisco, Kyle Duncan, Jim Hogue, Greg Katsas, those were 5 names that John and I recommended from the Heritage list that President Trump hadn't previously placed on his list that he did this afternoon. And so seeing people of that caliber with their credentials, with their commitment to faithfully interpreting the Constitution is very heartening, and I think bodes well for President Trump's commitment to appoint, again, conservative, constitutionally committed judges to the bench and to the Supreme Court.
That is the voice belonging to Zack Smith. Zack is legal fellow at the Meese Center for of the Heritage Foundation. So it's a presidential, election campaign here. We got 50 something days. I'm pretty sure. Zach, you have to understand, Zach, I can never actually remember the days sure. that we have until November. But does the president trying to put pressure on Joe Biden, by again, sort of teasing out that he will announce his list in the coming weeks, not really putting a date on it, and then sort of throwing in 3 senators who I think would absolutely make amazing jurists. That also, but to my point, gives it a news factor, and it also reminds people the importance of presidential elections. But is the president, do you think, he may not be, but do you think he's trying to sort of smoke Joe Biden out, knowing that Joe Biden hasn't released a list? Zach, I don't even know if Joe Biden will release a list, but if he did, I'd assume there'd be some radical names on it. Does that even play in?
Well, look, I think President Trump recognizes that appointing constitutionally conservative judges to all levels of the federal judiciary, but especially to the Supreme Court, is an issue that many voters care very deeply about. Voters clearly cared about it leading up to the 2016 election, and they continue to care about it today. And so, again, what I think President Trump has done is he has staked out his position, made clear to voters, just like he did in 2016, that the federal judiciary will again be one of his primary focuses if he were to get reelected, and that, again, he would appoint judges that share a conservative constitutional judicial philosophy. And I think Joe Biden recognizes that fact as well, and has himself said he will release a list of potential candidates for the Supreme Court. But I would anticipate his list would look very, very different than the list that President Trump released this afternoon.
Yeah, to that end, I wrote in my upcoming book, 50 Things I Don't Want You to Know About Trump. I wanted to include a chapter, Zach, on the accomplishments that the president has made in, Senator McConnell actually creating a system which these appointments were streamlined, so much so that, we're talking about a historic number of federal judges that the president has actually added, particularly. Well, yeah, go ahead.
Well, what I'll say to that, Jerome, is the number becomes even more impressive and important when you consider the opposition that President Trump's nominees have faced in the Senate. And so it's really a credit to the White House, to President Trump, and especially to Mitch McConnell that they've managed to confirm this number of nominees in the face of such strident opposition. In fact, Heritage Foundation runs a judicial tracker where you can go to heritage.org, take a look at the number of judges appointed across this administration, compare it to past administrations, and you'll see that the number of times that extra procedural hurdles have been thrown in the way of Trump's nominees is staggering compared to past presidents. And so in light of that, again, the accomplishment of appointing so many good judges to the federal bench is very impressive and very important for our nation.
It is, because I'm sort of trying to lead into a question that I know I want to ask, but, there in terms of funding for the border, when the Department of Defense, it was something like $2 billion the president had tried to allocate away from the Pentagon to fund the border wall construction. I mean, that came down, correct me if I'm wrong, to the Supreme Court making a decision ultimately that cleared that money so that the construction of the border wall could continue, correct?
Well, I think you're pointing to a larger issue, Jerome. The Supreme Court, courts at all levels, but especially the Supreme Court today, have really taken an outsized role in the life of the American public. And in a lot of ways, they've taken that outsized role inappropriately because they've created law out of whole cloth, created new rights that are found nowhere in the text of the Constitution, nowhere in the text of the laws that the elected branch of government, Congress, passed and that the president signed into law. And so what you're seeing from a lot of these new judicial nominees who eventually go on the bench is they recognize the proper role of federal judges and the federal judiciary. And that's to interpret the law as it's written and not to create a new law where they may just not like the policy outcomes or the policy preferences of the elected branches of government. And I think that's important, and it's important because it helps restore the proper balance of power among the three branches of government and leaves the policymaking decisions where they should be with the elected branches that we, the people, send to Washington to do those jobs.